Welcome to the Pelican Debrief podcast to get your podcast debriefing. I am your host, Chris Barnwell, and with me today I have editor of Pelican Debrief, Matt Cianfro. Matt, how are you doing?
Doing good after last night. There's no real way not to be. It was fun.
Yeah, the NBA season's finally back. That was exciting. I was so happy to just put on TNT and looking at Shaq and Ernie and everyone all over again.
Yeah, I was irrationally excited all yesterday. It was pretty bad considering I had to sub teach and then go work some retail hours, but I couldn't hold in the excitement. So once 8 o'clock hit, or I'm on the East Coast, so 8 o'clock, I was incredibly happy.
Yeah, I was at school and I went to campus yesterday and I was like, why am I the only person that looks excited for tonight? Like no one else looks pumped. Maybe they were all just internally hiding it too. I don't know, or that I'm the only NBA fan amongst the thousands of people at UCF.
Yeah, well, considering you're in Florida, there's a chance it's not. It's partially that.
I think everyone was just expecting the Magic to be as terrible as they were last night.
Yeah, they weren't great, but part of it was, man, Anthony Davis is really good.
I Anthony Davis had a monster night. Just everyone had high expectations for him going into the season, but he was incredible. 10 for 22 from the field, 45%, 26 points, 9 blocks, almost a triple-double with 17 rebounds. Triple doubles and blocks are hard enough as is, but it doesn't matter if it was the Magic. That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. There's going to be some people who are going to go, well, it was just the Magic, but you look at what he did last night, and like it, it seemed like he had way more he could have done. I mean, he missed some open jumpers early. He kind of missed some, in contact, some shots in the lane because of contact. Like, it wasn't hard to imagine him going 30-29 or 30-20-10. It was that effortless and easy what he did last night.
Well, I mean, we can't take away too much from like a game against the Magic because, like you said, it was still incredible. And I kind of am one of those. Well, it was just the Magic people, only because the Magic were missing Charlie Fry and Victor Oladipo, and the whole offense was kind of out of whack. So they had Anthony Davis basically destroying everything because of that. Like if the Magic had Charlie Fry, they would have been pulling Anthony Davis farther out to the perimeter, I think at least. And sure, they had Omer Sheik, but that probably would have taken away some of Anthony Davis's block totals, and it might have been making him run a little more. They could have made him look more vulnerable than he did. But that said, just you don't get 9 blocks and just because the team was bad. If that was the case, we'd see it a lot more often.
Yeah, I mean, it was a dominating performance, and it doesn't matter who you're playing. When you play that well, it's incredible. I mean, he's doing stuff that you see the names of some of these things he's done. Hakeem Olajuwon, Shaq, Tim Duncan. Anytime you're in a breath with those guys, you're special. You had a special night, and that was Davis last night. And like I said, he left stuff on the table that I think as he just gets more comfortable with playing heavier minutes and minutes that are going to be more intense than he necessarily was in the preseason, it's going to be even better. It's going to be so much fun to watch him this year.
We can't overlook that he was playing the Magic, but yeah, you're right. Everything went his way last night. The clip that I saw over and over again was the one. I don't remember if he would miss the shot or if someone else did, but he pulled down a rebound. He was basically behind the backboard almost. He was just within the baseline. He's behind the hoop. He had like Elfrid Payton there and a couple other Magic players, and he just kind of wrapped his arm around the hoop and dunked it.
Yeah, someone got blocked. It may have been Drew. It was one of the guards got blocked by Kyle O'Quinn, and he grabbed it, and that was incredible. But to me, that wasn't even his best offensive rebound dunk of the night. I thought the one he had at the end of the second quarter, yeah, right before halftime on the Tyreek miss, where he came out of nowhere and basically dunked the ball with his wrist, was even more impressive to me. But I mean, that's a thing. We're arguing about which dunk from out of nowhere that normal human beings can't make was more impressive, and you sit there and you go, oh man, this is again, this guy's special, and it was fun. And
There was also the steal at the beginning of the game where he stole the ball in the open court and then just dunked it really easily from just outside the charge arc. That's
yeah,
all I
I
can
mean,
call it.
outside of Kevin Durant, how many 6'11" players in the league are jumping a passing lane, getting the steal, and dunking a ball like that? It was incredible.
I, Outside of Anthony Davis, how'd the game in general go for you? I mean, obviously the Magic were really bad, but what about the rest of the Pelicans?
It's weird in that the Pelicans, they didn't play well, and
Oh,
they
not I thought they
dominated.
were playing really bad.
Yeah, they looked. I mean, they missed open threes. They were horrific from the foul line. Drew had some turnovers. Or actually, no, I'm sorry. Drew didn't have any turnovers, but there were just some
He
passes.
struggled on offense a lot.
Yeah, there were some passes in transition where it looked like guys were, just feeling each other out, and that's part of these guys didn't really get to play a lot together last year, so you're going to have some moments like that where, one guy expects someone to shoot and he tries to throw a little low pass in transition, the ball rolls out of bounds and things like that. But you look up and they still dominated because that front line is really, really good. But there was a lot of good things because you can see how easily it can improve. Drew is going to shoot better going forward. Ryan Anderson's going to shoot better going forward, and this team's going to be really fun to watch, and this offense is going to be incredibly explosive.
While the offense is going to be explosive, I'm really worried about the defense because there were a few moments last night that I can kind of highlight. There was one in particular where Kylo Quinn had the ball at the top of the arc and he kind of just dribbled it inside like he was a guard and laid it in, like
Yeah, but
against the entire Pelicans defense. And this was with Ashik and Davis out there too. I don't know what happened.
I think that was because I remember right. It was early in the game. I think someone deflected a ball or blocked a shot, and it was kind of into chaotic reset there. There were definitely rough moments. The bench struggled without Ashik on the floor and without Davis on the floor. And really, the guards in general outside of Drew kind of got beat a lot off the dribble. And Davis and Ashik were there to recover. I mean, Davis had 9 blocks. I think Ashik had 5. It's great that your big guys are blocking 14 shots combined, but it's also kind of a problem that your big guys are blocking 14 shots combined because that means
They're
that
getting to the
typically
rim.
the other teams are getting to the rim. So I think it'll get better as the year goes along. I mean, Drew Holiday at the end of the game just sealed it when poor Elfrid Payton, who I thought played pretty well last night.
He did really good on the defensive side. On the offense, yeah.
Drew just took the ball from him like 2 possessions in a row, got runouts, and that was that. And I think that's the big takeaway is I don't know if he's completely back yet. I think he's still got to play himself back into game shape and get comfortable. But he's going to be a terror for opposing guards.
Speaking of Drew, I thought that a lot of his struggles had to do with Elfrid Payton just playing really well because one thing Drew Holiday wasn't used to was a guy that's just hawking over him all like that, because that's what happens when you're gone from an injury. You can only do so much in practice. You just don't get used to guys who just pressure you 24/7, or that's probably not the right term there, but whatever, 24/7 throughout the game. Just you're not used to Elfrid Payton doing that to you all game long, and I thought because of Elfrid Payton's defense, Drew Holiday struggled a lot.
Yeah, there were some issues, but again, I think you said it right. It's playing back into this. I mean, it's a guy who missed so long, and all of a sudden now his first game back, he's thrown to a guy who basically does what he does defensively, which is get up, be really athletic, be really physical, and get into a guy. And there were some shots that I think start to go down eventually. He just missed some decent looks. There were some rough, contested mid-range jumpers. I don't think we necessarily need to see. I think it'll come back. and he'll play better. I mean, I think he's a really really good player, and I think he'll be better. But yeah, like you said, it was a rough first game back. I think he'll look a lot better on Saturday when he's dealing with Jameer Nelson and Raymond Felton if he plays at all. So I think we'll start to see a little bit better, but it wasn't a fun first game back for him.
Yeah, 4 for 11 from the field. Just he was never taking a shot that he seemed to be very happy with. They made him make passes he didn't seem comfortable with. I mean, he somehow avoided turnovers for the most part.
Yeah, he only had 2 for the game.
Yeah, two turnovers.
I think one of them actually was just a bobbled pass by Ashik that got credited to Drew, and that's going to happen. I mean, I liked a lot of what Ashik did last night, but Drew and Tyreek kept trying to throw him the ball in traffic, and he's kind of got stones for hands, so that's not always going to work. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes, and I think he'll be better. I thought it was interesting that they played Drew off the ball as much as they did. I thought we'd see that a lot, but I didn't necessarily think we'd see it as much as we did even last night, where really I think for most of the game, Tyreek Evans was the main ball handler and the main creator, and Drew was kind of that secondary guy. And part of it's Drew's a much better shooter, so it makes sense to have him spotting up and then attacking closeouts, but I wonder how much of his struggles were a little bit of that, where he's not necessarily used to playing off the ball that much.
That's true, because like you said earlier, they're still working through some of those growing pains of having not playing together before.
Yep, exactly.
Another moment I wanted to highlight kind of was the perimeter defense in general, like whether it was the bench or whether Drew and Evans and Eric Gordon were all out there. The perimeter defense was struggling a lot. Like we said earlier, they were getting to the rim a lot. And again, one moment I want to highlight is there was a time where the Magic just brought everyone out to the perimeter, and then Tobias Harris went on a backdoor cut and had a wide open dunk because just every single player on the Pelicans just followed. Like almost they were playing 90s style man-to-man defense. It was really bad.
Yeah, it's something. And again, I hope and I think that part of it was just the communication and things like that aren't quite there yet. But we'll see. I think between Ashik Davis and Holiday, this should easily be a top 10 defense this year, but it's going to take some time to get there. And Saturday's going to be real tough because that Mavericks offense is really good. So I think we'll see some more bad possessions here and there, and I think there will be guys getting to the rim again, but I think as the season goes on, a lot of that will be cleaned up and things should be better.
Yeah, I mean, it was just the first game. There's always those first game struggles. You're never going to expect a perfect game on the first. Like, if we can't expect them to be looking the way they're going to look in Game 82 and Game 1, that would just be ludicrous to expect that. There should be improvements throughout the year. We're just kind of pointing out what we think they need to improve on so far. I mean, they were just stuff we noticed. For all we know, none of this will be a problem in the very next game.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's one of those things that it'll get better. It has to, but there's going to be issues. I mean, the bench defense is going to be rough. Especially with Jimmer and Rivers really struggled last night. And, Luke Babbitt's off the bench, John Solomons is off the bench. There's some things going on, but they'll figure it out, and we'll play enough minutes with Ashik and Davis and Holiday and those guys that it's not as much an issue. And there's always a chance some other move gets made. I think John Solomons has many more games like last night. We see one of those young small forwards who could potentially be better sitting out there like a Quincy Miller or something. I mean, Solomons was horrific.
Yeah, speaking of that bench, just the entire bench seemed to struggle last night. Like until that late run in the third quarter, the Magic were right in it that entire game, and a lot of that had to do with the bench being so bad. I remember when they threw out that Austin Rivers, Jimmer Fredette backcourt that we were kind of expecting because we saw them run it a lot during preseason, And Twitter just blew up with, oh my God, they're actually doing this. This is a for real NBA lineup right now.
Yeah, it's something. I mean, I found it. I thought they were going to try to manipulate things a little bit differently, where you had Gordon, Evans, or Holiday in with one of the bench guards for most of it, but Austin Rivers played 20 minutes and Jimmer played 18. And it was interesting. I don't mind the combination. I think if you're going to play it, you have to have a Sheik in the game. But we'll see how it goes going forward. I mean, there really weren't a ton of minutes. Rivers got some run with the starters here and there, but it wasn't a ton. It was mostly in combination with Fredette. So we'll see. I thought it was curious. Alexis Ajinça only got 2 minutes. I understand Davis and Ashik and Anderson need to soak up the majority of those minutes, but I just find it hard to believe that the second best bench player on the team, Ryan Anderson, outside of him, the second best bench player, which is Ajinça, only played 2 minutes. I think you got, and that was kind of when the game was already decided. So I think you have to find a way to manipulate things and get him in, even if it's necessarily playing Anderson more with the starters and something like that, or playing Ajinça with Davis and the rest of the bench guys. But I don't know if you can get away long term with Solomons playing 10 minutes and Fredette 18 and Rivers 20 and Ajinça only 2. And at the end of the day, I don't know if you want to play Omer Asik 34 minutes a game like he did last night, because I don't know if he can hold up long term like that. He's never really shown us that he can. I think he's a good player. I think he's going to be really beneficial to them, but I think you've kind of got to keep him around the 28-minute mark per game until you get late into the season and the playoffs to just keep him okay and keep him right.
Twice last night we saw Monty Williams kind of go with that hockey switch-like lineup, or just a mass substitution where the starting lineup came in and the bench unit came out. Do you think he was responding to Jacques Vaughn doing that with the Magic, because the Magic were kind of doing the same thing, or do you think that's kind of going to be something he does this year, where he does the whole, like, because I think it was towards the end of the first and towards the end of the third quarter he did the mass substitutions rather than kind of doing a rotation where he's kind of moving players in and out throughout the game.
Yeah, a lot of it was you had Fredette, Rivers, Anderson, and at least one starter normally. There was never really a five player bench unit until the last couple minutes of the game when everything was decided.
Yeah, he wasn't going Golden State Warriors on us.
Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of it. I would have rather seen, like I said, Evans and Holiday mixed in more with the bench guys as kind of the offensive creation. But
I agree.
But Monty's always kind of been a guy to use heavy bench units and then run with the starters. So I think it is what it is. We'll see. I mean, at one point it wasn't a long stretch. I think it was only about a minute and a half or 2 minutes, but Austin Rivers, Jimmer Fredette, and Eric Gordon were all on the floor together, and I don't get that. But sure, Monty. Monty was doing his thing, and the Pelicans won by a significant amount, so I guess you can't really complain too much, but that was curious.
There was a lot of curious decisions last night with some of those lineups from both sides of coaching. I actually sent out a tweet where it was like, we've all been asking who the first coach is going to get fired this season. Let me just point at the Magic Pelicans game going on here. Because there was a backcourt battle going on of Luke Ridnour, Ben Gordon, and Willie Green versus Austin Rivers, Jimmer Fredette, and John Salmons. That was an experience.
Yeah, John Salmons was an experience. That's for sure. It wasn't good, but it was an experience.
The John Salmons versus Ben Gordon game is not something I ever want to watch again.
Yeah, I can't believe. John Salmons put up the great 10 minutes, no shot attempts, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, and 3 personal fouls. And because he played next to Ryan Anderson for a lot of it, he was somehow a +10. I mean, it was awful. He was just chasing guys around. He was late on rotations. He can't stay in front of people. I just don't see if Monty Williams is going to use a really bad player with a bench unit, small forward or shooting guard as he played Salmons there at times in the preseason. You may as well make it Luke Babbitt because at the very least he can shoot the three consistently. I mean, Salmons really didn't shoot great last year. He shot good from the corners. He didn't shoot great throughout. And at the end of the day, if all he can do is shoot from the corners and foul people, is it even really worth putting him out there? At least Luke Babbitt can make his threes from all around the arc. You know, I mean, he knocked down threes from the wings, the top of the key, the corners. At least if all you're going to have is three-point shooting, extend it from, oh, well, he can only shoot in the corners.
Yeah, it's not like Salmons is so much better a defender than Babbitt that you should be playing him over Babbitt.
Yeah, the
either player is changing the game that much, but we're kind of nitpicking here, but still.
Yeah, the reputation of John Salmons as a defender is probably way better of a defender right now than actually what John Salmons does. Just because the Raptors were desperate and threw him at Joe Johnson last year in the playoffs doesn't mean it was a good idea. It didn't exactly go that well. So we'll see how long John Salmons as a thing lasts. But, you know, I wrote a post about this week. If the Pelicans are going to waste the roster spot this year anyway with Patrick Young, and I like Patrick Young. I think he's an NBA player. But if everything goes according to plan, Patrick Young never sees a meaningful minute for the New Orleans Pelicans. The Pelicans didn't trade for Omer Asik to let him walk this offseason. You know, they're going to try to extend him long term. So Asik's going to soak up a ton of minutes. Ryan Anderson's going to soak up a ton of minutes the next couple of years. And Anthony Davis is going to be one of the 5 best players in the league for forever, apparently. So there's no real reason that Patrick Young should be a meaningful part of things when you can take a gamble on a guy who has some actual meaningful NBA minutes in Quincy Miller. I don't understand it. If you're going to waste a roster spot, at least with a guy who's never going to play all year, at least waste one with a guy at a position of need.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on all those counts. It's really ridiculous that we're seeing a player like Salmons or Salmons. I don't. Is it Salmons or Salmons?
I don't know, and I think it's Salmons, but it's, you know, different people are going to pronounce things different ways. I think it's Salmons, though.
We've seen him go through the NBA roster so much. He has a reputation now of being the most traded player in the NBA. He gets traded like once a year. It's kind of ridiculous that he's actually playing meaningful minutes when that's his reputation. One guy last night on the bench, his box score looks terrible, but I thought he actually didn't look too bad, was Jimmer.
Yeah,
Let me just state, on the defensive side of the ball, throw all that out. Ben Gordon was the guy he was guarding all night, and Ben Gordon just is atrocious, just so bad. All he does is shoot terrible jump shots. Just do not consider Jimmer's defense last night relevant at all. Let's just focus on his offense.
Yeah, I didn't mind the looks he got offensively. It wasn't, you know, it was one of those things. He had a couple catch and shoot looks. The Pelicans were running him off some screens, some action to get him open. I didn't mind the shots he was getting, and at a certain point, those are going to go in. You know, he's a good enough shooter that if you consistently get him open looks, they're going to go in. And compared to what they have, you know, I didn't mind it. If you're going to run him out for 15 minutes a night to be a shooter, that's fine. He attacked a closeout a couple times, probably took it a dribble or two too far and had to shoot some awkward floaters, but there was no shots I hated from him. So I don't see the problem with at least keep trying him, and some of those shots will go in, and he's a guy who can get you, you know, 8 or 12 points very quickly and swing a game.
Yeah, I really liked the way he played off ball. I liked what the Pelicans were doing to get him open. There was one play in particular where they had Davis dive towards the basket, and they had Jimmer float out to the wing arc of the 3-point line, and he was wide open for a shot. He missed the shot, but it was just a really good shot, and he worked really well off ball that I want to see them continuing to do.
Yeah, exactly. it's one of those things. If you're gonna have a bench unit that's got its flaws, at least let him just try to outscore everybody, and Jimmer will help with that.
So, was there anything else last night that you really saw that we haven't really highlighted yet?
Omer Ashik was a really, really good addition.
Oh yeah, he was great.
He was terrific. Offensive rebounding, blocking shots, protecting the rim, and you could just see the comfort level it gave to Davis knowing he had Ashik back there behind him, where he could gamble on a couple things, and it was great. I was really, really impressed. He won't score 17 points all the time, or however many he finished with.
14.
Yeah, and 50, and he had the 17 rebounds. That's what it was. But he's going to be great for them. He stayed out of foul trouble for the most part. He struggled a little bit in traffic catching the ball, but he's going to do that. But I was really impressed with him last night. And I thought Tyreke Evans, even though he shot 5 of 15 from the field, I thought he looked really good. A lot of those misses led to Pelicans' offensive rebounds and finishes because he drew so much traffic to him at the rim and opened things up. So I was impressed with both of those guys last night, and I think it was not the best case scenario to get out of both of them because I think the best case, obviously, with Tyreke is he makes a few more of those shots, but it's kind of exactly what you were looking for from him when you acquire him.
Yeah, Evans looked really in control last night. Like, he had 6 assists, 9 rebounds. Just nothing he did felt wasted. Like, in his time with the Kings, there were times where he just kind of had wasted possessions. Or it was like, what were you really doing there? All of his 15 shot attempts, they felt like they were not terrible. Like, there was one here and there where it didn't feel like a good shot. It was a Tyreke Evans heave. But besides that, for the most part, everything he did looked in control.
Yeah, I was a big fan of what he did last night for sure.
And I completely agree with you on everything Omer Sheik. Just last night really highlighted why they traded for him. Yes, he has stone hands, so that's why he had 3 turnovers, and he's probably going to have a couple 5 turnover nights every once in a while. But the 7 for 10 was just incredible. He was dominating those Magic front court players like Nikola Vucevic, who himself had an amazing game. He had 22 rebounds?
So yeah, he had a chunk of rebounds.
Vucevic himself had an amazing game, but Ashik was just dominating him whenever he was anywhere near the rim. Just the Magic could not get in Ashik's way at all. He was just overpowering them.
It was fun to watch. It was a lot of fun to watch. And like I said, I think that's the impact he had on Davis was easy to see, and it's exciting going forward if he's going to free up Anthony Davis to do things like he did last night.
Speaking of Anthony Davis, he got 3rd in ESPN's NBA rank. That's something.
Yeah, that was fun. Look, I mean, especially after last night, you can't really. I mean, you can argue with it, but it becomes a little harder because he is terrific, and I think in due time he'll easily be there, so I don't see the problem with it being there. He probably isn't right now, but it's close enough, and with the momentum he has going for him, it was fun to see.
I thought it was a little overranked. I personally didn't even think he was really a top 5 player yet, but I don't hate the ranking. I mean, Anthony Davis is probably going to be incredible this year. My main thing with what it was, he's going to be really good. I don't know if he's going to be that good, so he might be getting a little overhyped right now to the point where he's going to be amazing, but because he's not going to be the 3rd best player in the NBA, he's going to have a disappointing year, and that's going to be really weird.
Yeah, I wonder how much of it was that the ranking having to do with quantity and quality, and I think the quantity of his production is going to be so huge that, and obviously it's going to be terrific quality, that it's going to be the big difference. And I think that's why people ranked him so highly. He's going to do a lot. I mean, you're going to see nights like last night where he's putting points in every single category, or putting stats in every single category of the box score. So I think that's part of it. But in the end, it's a fun ranking, and it's fun to see a guy. It's cool to see a guy like Davis, such a young player on a team that's not necessarily nationally popular right now, get to that kind of ranking.
Yeah, Andrew wrote a post on it actually, and everyone should go read that. It was a pretty good post about Anthony Davis's ranking and what he's done to kind of get here to this point and everything, and how he's doing it at such a really young age. What are your expectations for Anthony Davis this year? Like, do you think he's going to be in the MVP conversation? Just an All-Star year? Like, I think he's a lock for the All-Star game this year, possibly a lock to be an All-Star starter, but I don't know about the MVP conversation.
Yeah, I don't think that's possible because I don't think the team is going to win enough. I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to be competing for a playoff spot, but I think unless they end up in the top 5 of the Western Conference, there's no way that he gets into that MVP conversation. But
well, usually a guy who's putting up really good numbers on a bad team can at least get into the top 5 votes. Do you think he can do that at least?
If they make the playoffs, I almost think it's a guarantee he will. Depending if they miss it, I think a lot of it depends on how much they miss it by. But he's going to be fun. He's got the buzz behind him. There's a chance. There's a chance he's in the conversation. There's a chance he grabs himself a ton of votes, especially with Kevin Durant being injured.
Yeah, that's true. With Durant's injury, everyone's kind of looking for that. Well, who's the non-LeBron player you can vote for? Because I mean, everyone says LeBron's the favorite, and he kind of is because he's the greatest player in the world. But everyone's kind of seeing who can take that who can be the non-LeBron MVP vote. Can it be Blake Griffin? Can it be Chris Paul? And you've seen Anthony Davis's name kind of get thrown out there every once in a while.
Yeah, exactly. It's I hope he gets there because man, would that be a massive amount of fun to watch if he actually does get into that conversation.
Moving on to this weekend's, the Pelicans aren't playing tonight. They're not playing Thursday, and they're not playing Friday. But they are playing Saturday, and that's going to be their second game of the year against the Mavericks, who we all saw play last night.
Yeah, he's going to be fun. Yeah, that game should be fun. He'll be fun in that game because the duel with Dirk Nowitzki is going to be awesome. I mean, these are 2 of the best power forwards in the game. It's going to be tough. The Mavericks are really good. I mean, they got an awful night from Chandler Parsons and still almost beat the Spurs. It's going to be a nice test for the Pelicans this early in the season to kind of see where they're at as a team and see where they need to get to. There's a lot that can go right. There's a lot. I mean, the Dallas defense isn't great. It should be better this year, but we'll kind of get a really good test for how good this Pelicans defense actually is because the Dallas offense is going to be just infinitely better than the Magic were yesterday.
I thought their defense, the Mavericks defense, was actually pretty good last night because now that they have Tyson Chandler, they kind of have that true rim protector because last year they really didn't have one, or at least a good one. With Tyson Chandler back in town and him not having to defend literally every hole ever that was up in New York, he can really do what he's good at, which is protect the rim, rotate over, and stop and get in guys' way. And I think that really, really helps the Mavericks defense a lot because they got some okay perimeter guys. I mean, Monte Ellis and Jameer Nelson aren't amazing defenders, but they're okay, and that really helps them. And when they're going up against the Pelicans, that's going to help. Having guys like Jameer and Monte who aren't great but okay are probably going to help the Mavericks more than you would think because unlike the Magic, they're not saloon doors. They're not just going to let them go by and wait for Ashiq and Davis to stop them. They're actually going to cause problems for those perimeter Pelicans players.
Yeah, those guys are really good. They'll be more comfortable pulling up and shooting jumpers than Elfrid Payton was last night. Elfrid and he was fearless, but he put himself in position to get blocked a fair amount last night.
Most specifically, he kept trying to do that up and under shot 4 times, and he got blocked all except once.
Yeah, that's not going to work against these guys. So I think that'll be a thing to watch if they're going to pull up, and Jameer's more than capable of pulling up and knocking that down, and Devin Harris isn't terrible at it. It could be a problem, and Monte's going to finish at the rim better than those Orlando guys. So it's going to be like I said, it's going to be a good test to see how much the last night was just, you hate to say it, but taking a bad Orlando team, missing a couple of their better players lightly. How much is they just have things to work on still, and we'll see. I mean, it should be fun. I think Drew will be fine. I think the two guard one is the one to watch with Monta and whoever is going to try to defend him. I wouldn't be surprised if at points we see Drew shift over to Monta and have Eric Gordon play Jameer or Devin Harris, and go from there. And I think Parsons could be a problem for Tyreek at points. I think he's way better than he showed last night. His size could give Tyreek a little bit of problems. He's a big guy. So it'll be interesting to watch, and it'll be tough. But tomorrow will be a night or Saturday, I'm sorry, will be a night I kind of expect them to struggle defensively this early in the year. But it'll be a nice measuring stick for later in the year to see how much they've grown defensively.
One thing I noticed was Dirk only shot one three-pointer last night. Carlisle's a really smart coach, and he knows he's going to want to pull Anthony Davis as far away from the rim as possible. Davis already kind of plays a little bit away from the rim because he's so long and fast. He can recover quickly. So I'd expect Dirk to shoot more threes than he shot last night. I'm mainly worried about the bench unit because Jimmer and Austin Rivers are not good defenders at all, and Devin Harris can really be a problem. He played 29 minutes last night, which are starter-level minutes, but he can definitely play with that backup unit and cause hell for that backup backcourt that the Pelicans throw out there.
Yeah, agreed. And he's a big guy, and that's the other problem because Jimmer and Austin aren't huge. So it's going to be interesting to watch. It's something that could be a problem, but I wonder if this will be the game where Monty starts to kind of experiment with breaking the Rivers and Holiday rests up so you always have one of them on the floor, and see what happens.
I would hope he would do that because Carlisle, unlike the Magic, is not going to be doing these gigantic shift change substitutions. He's a very good coach. He knows how to run a rotation properly. He's going to be keeping at least 2 or 3 starters in there at all times and just constantly adjusting throughout the game. Monty Williams is going to have one hell of a coaching game if he's going to give the Pelicans a chance against that Mavericks team.
Yeah, the big thing with Carlisle and his rotations is Dirk comes out early in the first and third quarters so that he can run the end of the quarters and early in the second and fourth with the bench units for the Mavericks. So will Monty kind of try to play matchup-wise and make sure Davis is always in the game when Dirk is, or will he trust Ryan Anderson to defend Dirk will be something interesting to watch because Dirk can kind of light up a bench unit, and he does that often, so Pelicans are going to have to find a way to combat that.
All right, so yeah, the Mavericks played last night. Did you watch any other games last night besides them? Did you catch any of the Rockets-Lakers slaughtering?
I caught a little bit early, but not much of the game. I mean, the Lakers, I knew they were going to be awful. I didn't have any expectations for them to stay in the game, so I kind of took the chance to get some extra sleep and did that. I mean, on the East Coast, that game wasn't going to end until 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, whenever it did. So I just kind of let it go and figured Houston would win big, and sure enough, they did.
Well, you missed some NBA hilarity with Kobe and Dwight getting into it amidst a 20-point-plus lead for the Rockets. Dwight went up for a rebound, and Kobe wouldn't get out of his way, so when Dwight did the elbow clear-out, he caught Kobe in the face. And Kobe decided to call Dwight soft, to which Dwight responded with, "I know you, dog," which basically meant, "I know you're not going to do anything." It was the classic hold me back moment. Kobe was yelling this across like 3 teammates. So it was really ironic to be calling a guy soft while you're being held back by all of your teammates. It was a really funny moment, honestly.
Yeah, as the guys on the starters said today, Kobe's going to snap at some point this year, and last night was just the tipping point. So it's going to be something to watch, I guess, with the Lakers. I guess with the way they're going to be this year, there's really not much of a choice.
All right, how about we start wrapping this up? The Pelicans aren't playing tonight, but I know you're going to be watching NBA games. What are you watching tonight?
I'm gonna flip around. I'll check in on the Bucks and Hornets early, partially to see that awesome new Hornets court and uniform. Maybe land on Washington, Miami a little bit. Uh, that's probably the big one, the two ones that I'm really most interested in. Washington, Miami would be great if they were healthy. It just came out Josh McRoberts won't play. We already know Bradley Beal's out. So Milwaukee, Chicago is a little appealing. Toronto, Atlanta should be kind of fun. But there's not, and Oklahoma City, Portland should be fun because Russell Westbrook is going to shoot a lot.
Yeah, my early games are probably going to be Milwaukee and Charlotte and Atlanta and Toronto. Those are probably going to be the two games I'm flipping back and forth to the most. I'll probably see if I can catch a bit of the Knicks Bulls game, only because watching Derrick Rose and Carmelo Anthony is always fun. After those games end, I might try and catch the end of Detroit and Denver to see how Stan Van Gundy is working out. I'm going to avoid Indiana-Philly at all costs.
Yeah, that's maybe a college basketball game.
Maybe a D-League basketball game?
Yeah, that's going to be bad. I'm going to avoid that one as much as I can because no one deserves the pain of watching that game.
The Pacers are just so injured, and the Sixers are just so bad.
Yeah, oh boy, it's going to be bad. It's arguable at this point that outside of Philly, the Pacers, as they're constructed right now today with all the injuries, may be the second worst team in the league because they are not going to be able to score.
Just at all. I don't even know if their defense will do that great since they're missing all of their great perimeter defenders.
Yeah, it's going to be something.
I'm kind of getting a little dark over here, so we should probably wrap this up.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you for watching the Pelican Debrief podcast. To get your podcast debriefing, we will have Mavericks coverage later for you this weekend, and we will have all kinds of NBA coverage for you throughout the week, so be sure to check us out, and we will see you again next time. Thanks for listening, everybody.